Hello there, one and all, and thank you very much for tuning in to episode 556 of Love at First Scent with me, Persolaise, live on YouTube as always, but whether you're watching the live or you're watching the recording doesn't really matter. You're very, very welcome, and we have a comment from Alex who says, a witch's night, that's what we in Austria call the last day of April, and indeed it is the last day of April. I wonder why it's called the witch's night. Would you happen to know the history of that, Alex, or does anybody know the history of that? That's curious, that's interesting. Love at First Scent, how exciting. Scent of the day, says Alex, is Lulu by Cacharel. Now, that brings back some memories. I won't go down this particular rabbit hole of the story, but Lulu, I remember I once shocked a teacher of mine when I was in year 8, so the second year of secondary school in the British system. I once shocked a teacher of mine by as she was leaving our classroom, sort of saying, "Miss, really sorry, but are you wearing Lulu?" And she sort of went, "Yes." Not a trick I have been able to pull off again many times, but yeah. Yes, the perfume has been a feature of my life for a very, very, very long time indeed. Juliana is here as well, saying hi, Mr. P. Gender Goblin says good afternoon. Fahmi says hi from Indonesia. Papa P, you're very, very welcome, Fahmi. Nice shirt as always, says Omar. Thank you very much. Filippo is here as well. So is my dear Aurora and Sean, Christopher. You're all very, very welcome. If you haven't already subscribed to this channel, please do consider doing so. You should also be able to click on the little bell so that you get notifications about new videos, and in the video description below you should also see links to my Substack page and my Ko-fi page. The Ko-fi page will give you some idea of how you can support my work. Actually, so does the Substack. Anyway, plan for today is that we're going to do one of our sort of full-length videos, so we're going to try and get through as many of these here as possible. So it's going to be a little bit of an extended Persolaise party, but I promise I will try not to take up more than an hour of your time. My dear Aurora says, I'm excited to hear about the new Celine. Well, hopefully you will not have to wait very much longer to find out about the new Celine. If you've tried any of these, please let me know what you think of them. Either during the live or afterwards. Alex says, oh, here we go, Witch's Night. Alex says it's from the ancient festival of Beltane. Okay, the spring festival, like Samhain, on the 31st of October is the autumn festival. Okay, so, but isn't it a little bit, I suppose it makes it easier to kind of have a particular date on the calendar for it, because the equinox was towards the end of March. Anyway, let us not get sidetracked. So these are mostly new releases for April 2025, newish. I'm kind of going to cheat with one of them. It's not particularly new, but I would like to bring it to your attention and use the opportunity to talk about the brand. We have got pre-sprayed blotters for all of the ones that we want to talk about, and some press releases, some press blurbs. So I think we should get going. I reckon we ought to start with this one because I don't think I have reviewed this particular range of scents on this channel before, or if I have, I've forgotten. So from Armani, there we go, from Emporio Armani, this is Stronger With You Sandalwood. I think it's now one of many. It's the latest of many, many, many flankers of Stronger With You. The original Stronger With You, I believe... Oh, Aaron says, sorry to be shady, but glad you're not subjecting us to that new abomination from Chanel. If you're talking about the new Chance, I actually don't think it's all too that bad at all. But maybe we'll get onto that in another video, unless there's another new abomination. But anyway, let us not get sidetracked. No Chanel today. So this is the Sandalwood flanker of Stronger With You. I'm pretty sure, somebody help me out, I'm pretty sure that the Arabic word in the middle of that O there just says sandal, which I guess is sandalwood. I think, have another look, Arabic readers and Arabic speakers, just so that you can tell me if I'm completely talking rubbish. And so the original Stronger With You, I think, came out in 2017. If I tried it, I've forgotten, and so this is not going to be a review in which I'm going to be able to give you a thoughtful, considered comparison with the original. Esomar says, are any of the Stronger With You fragrances any good? Well, you tell me. I think the whole idea of the Stronger With You was that they were supposed to have a kind of gourmand inflection for men. There was meant to be a kind of chestnutty, slightly sweet chestnutty facet to them, leaf and over woods. But this one was sent to me. The box tells us that, yes, that is Sandal, says Omar. Thank you very much. I'm glad I can still read a little bit of Arabic. I hope it's not the terrible kind of sandalwood, says Alex. Yeah, we'll find out. The box tells us that it's an exclusive edition. I don't really know in what way it's meant to be an exclusive edition. I have got, not only do I now have pre-sprayed blotters, but I also have pre-labelled blotters, just to save me faffing around in this arrangement, picking up pens and things like that. But of course, if you have pre-labelled blotters, it would help if you could read your own handwriting. Okay, so that says Armani, and it's got a number 2 next to it to show me that it's the second one rather than the pre-sprayed one. This is the level of organisation that we have on the Persolaise channel today, folks. Okay, here we go. So, Stronger With You, Sandalwood. I always thought Stronger With You, quite frankly, was a really, really naff name, a really cheesy name. I mean, so many perfume names. I mean, there are some brilliant ones out there, obviously, but what was one of the worst ones? I think from Elie Saab. Was it Girl of Now? I mean, thankfully that's gone. At least I think it's gone. But Girl of Now, I thought, was a particularly low point. Anyway, More Violette says, I've never tried Strong With You because the name is so dumb. There you go. Omar says, most of the line is sickly sweet, not sure about this one. The leather and oud ones are nice as well, says Ronnie. Egg yolk, very sweet though. Yeah, I think sweetness is the order of the day. Anyway, Sandalwood. I almost feel like there needs to be a kind of button that I can press to just dissolve into a pre-recorded sequence where I just say 2 words, where I just say ambery woods and we kind of move on. Although maybe in this case that would be, I mean, there are ambery woods here, but you know, the forehead didn't crinkle in absolute despair. So what are we getting? We are getting the sweet chestnutty marron glacé type accord. We're getting a greenness at the top that I suppose is meant to be the violet leaf, and we are getting, Alex, I'm sorry, I think a suggestion, more than a suggestion, of those rather fake, rather ersatz, rather unconvincing, rather boorish sandalwood materials coming through. There's really nothing particularly remarkable about the opening at all, but I would imagine that you know these things keep being released because they're doing well and because they're selling. So you know, there's you and me and a few other people who feel the same way about these sorts of compositions. But there are sufficient numbers of people out there who disagree with us in order to justify the continued existence of scents like this. But you know, I don't know whether it's just because I'm getting more accustomed to these sorts of compositions or because this one happens to not be as aggressive and unpleasant as some of them, but it's not making me run a million miles. But they are dull. A lot these things are really, really becoming quite dull. Let's look at the blurb and then let's smell the pre-sprayed blotter as well. What are you folks saying? Gavin, what's the brand? Perfume peeps. This is Armani's Stronger With You Sandalwood. It almost feels like there should be a comma after, you know, I'm stronger with you, Sandalwood, but last year I was stronger with you, oud, and maybe next year I'll be stronger with you, vanilla, because I'm flighty that way. Not terrible but boring, says Alex. That's a surprise, not a nice one, but a surprise. Gavin says, lol, I think I smelt this not for long. The smelling strip was put straight down. Boss bottled, have an absolute out, which is quite nice though. Okay, thank you for the tip. Anyway, discover the new Stronger With You Sandalwood, a spicy woody scent powered by Stronger With You's iconic ambery signature. The scent opens with an intriguing, leathery and bittersweet saffron accord. Not intriguing at all. Evoking a feeling of exquisite and rare luxury. I would disagree. Amplifying this aromatic fusion is a heart defined by lavender, all enhanced by Stronger With You's signature addictive, sugar-coated chestnut accord. Would you really want to have a perfume that has an addictive, sugar-coated chestnut accord? Is that the Armani thing now? Sugar-coated chestnuts has become the Armani aesthetic? I mean, okay, like I said, if it sells, it sells. At least Acqua di Gio seems to be doing all right. But, you know, when I don't actually know what the Armani look is at the moment. I suppose because of my age, for me, the Armani aesthetic is stuck somewhere between the late 80s and the early 90s, where they, you know, I think they did lots of fashion shoots in places like North Africa, in desert settings, and the guys' trousers, the men's trousers, were pleated and quite loose and baggy, and the jackets were also sort of linen-y and quite baggy, and everything felt super relaxed and super elegant. To me, that is always going to be the quintessential Armani look. I don't associate that look with sugar-coated chestnuts, but I don't know. Maybe the Armani look has moved on. Flankered into oblivion, says Oriana. EB says, it reminds me of one of the Tomb Raider games when after walking through a door, Lara Croft says, my arm feels stronger now. Okay, anyway, let me read on. So, sugar-coated chestnut, evoking the fragrance's unmistakable sense of mystique, is its namesake Sandalwood, whose woody, balsamic and velvety facets are enhanced by the comforting vanilla and warm cedarwood. For Stronger With You Sandalwood, the iconic bottle takes on a mysterious new guise. I'm sorry, what is mysterious about? Why do they use words like this? A deep, gleaming green reflects the captivating and rich woody depths of the scent within. So what you mean is it's dark, so you can't see the liquid very easily. 2 interlacing gold rings embrace the bottle. This motif is echoed in the tactile gold cap. Well, you kind of have to touch it, so it is tactile, like most perfume caps. Intricately designed with the same entwined rings. Adding a striking final touch, the word sandalwood is elegantly inscribed in Arabic calligraphy, picked out in gold lettering within the Stronger With You name. So that's a selling point, is it? I'm sorry, I hope this whole entire episode doesn't, but that's a selling point. The fact that you've written the name in Arabic in the middle of the letter O is something to shout about. Okay, fine. Well, I suppose the fact that they feel they need to shout about that shows they haven't got very much else to shout about. Think those might be AI generated, says, but well, who knows, Bozok. Zakia says, this is as close as I got to catching the live 12 minutes later. Well, you were fine. We're only on the first perfume. You're okay. Raniegio says, the Absolute is a boozy chestnut. It's cheesy, but personally I like it. I should try it. Somebody leave a comment about the current Armani aesthetic. Juliana says, Mr. P, I would love to hear your thoughts on Frederic Mal's Acne Studios. Oh, I've reviewed that, so you should be able to search for it. Alex says, they talk more about the packaging than the scent. That tells you everything. Yeah, I think it probably does. So they say that it's in the spicy woody family. The top notes, they say, are a spicy saffron accord. I mean, if you say so. Aromatic lavender and sweet chestnut in the heart, and creamy sandalwood and warm vanilla in the base. Gender, male. Thank you. Is that their way of saying, don't even think about it, ladies? Hang on, sorry, tablet has fallen over. I need to... Okay, pre-sprayed blotter for Stronger With You Sandalwood. Where are we? What's this doing now? Okay. Right, so if there are ambery woods in here, they haven't been overdosed, to give it its due. And actually, I think in some ways the dry down is more pleasant than the opening. Because the vanilla, I think, has been allowed to come out a bit more. And synthetic vanillas, I think, generally are more convincing than synthetic sandalwoods, and they haven't actually relied excessively on the sandalwoods. So, a bit of a pleasant surprise. This finishes off better. It's less aggressive, less boorish, less man-spready And actually, dare I say it, has got more than a touch of a kind of smooth, slinky feeling. Nice surprise, pleasant surprise. Was not expecting that. I will keep smelling the other blotter as well as the hours pass, but okay, perhaps I was judging a bit too rashly, a bit too hastily. Perhaps there is some strength in Stronger With You yet. Put it on skin, says Woozy. Well, I can't at the moment because I've got other ones to review. Maybe at the very end, or maybe another day next year. Let's see. Alcoholic Nun says, as far as mainstream masculine designer goes, this line isn't terrible, but haven't smelt this flanker. Certainly better than the abundance of screechy blue shower gel men's frags. Okay, well, if that dry down is anything to go by, I think you may well be right. EcoJock says, Armani is their main line, Haute Couture Emporio is their diffusion line, accessible luxury, and Armani Exchange is casual. I think I knew that, but I'd forgotten. And this is Emporio. So does that mean that something like Acqua di Gio comes under the I need to check this out. But okay, yes. And Nihia says, manspready. Would you say Kouros is manspready? Well, it may or may not be, but it's also genius perfumery. Let's leave it at that. Okay, let's move on. Let's do the other sort of super mainstream release that we have here. And just to kind of keep things as Catholic as possible and keep things as inclusive as possible, this is from Glossier, and it's called You Fleur. So you may recall that not too long ago, Glossier released a perfume or perfumes, I think one perfume called You. So this is a flanker of that, and it's called Fleur. And let's have a spray. Where are we? Here we go. Glossier. Have you tried Glossier You, says Woozy. I have a feeling have I not reviewed it? Or I think I've mentioned it. Is it on the Persolaise index on persolaise.com? I can't remember, to be honest. The OG Glossier You was good before it got reformulated, says Karen. This one, I had a kind of initial spray of it, not expecting a masterpiece, but there were a few people in the room present at the time, including a few younger people, as in below the age of 8, and they all sort of went, oh, that's not bad, that's quite pleasant. Woozy wants us to know that Glossier skincare is top-notch. Okay, I haven't tried it. Never tried anything from Glossier, says Thomas. Alcoholic Nun says, I quite like this You flanker, but the notes don't really align too much with what I'm smelling. Not particularly floral, more of an Ambroxan Ambrette scent with a faint salty suntan lotion vibe. Interesting. I completely know what you mean. It's got that kind of very, very clean, skin scenty, slightly musky, suntan lotion-y type of thing. Absolutely, you're absolutely right. But I do get a floral aspect and almost like a kind of faint whiff of iris. The kind of dryness, the powderiness of iris, which is maybe what links up well with the Ambroxan. And I wasn't expecting that. And I thought, okay, for something that couldn't be any more mainstream and couldn't be any more accessible and couldn't be any more, sort of youth marketed and youth oriented, it's kind of perfectly fine. I think it's probably a bit too expensive to be merely perfectly fine, because I kind of thought that maybe this would be more in the region of between £50 and £60, whereas apparently I think it's between like 70 and £80. But then also that may show that my understanding of prices needs a bit of updating, because is there anything out there worth bothering with that's in the region of £50 to £60? Gavin says, why are you describing this as mainstream? Well, because to me it kind of is, isn't it? Well, let's have a discussion about that. And you tell me, folks, whether you see Glossier as being mainstream or not. But it's attractive in that kind of spa whale music in the background type of way. Many years ago now, the sort of skincare and beauty salon brand Carita did a scent with Alberto Morillas. It was very typically musky Alberto Morillas scent, but it had that kind of zen, welcome madam, welcome sir to the spa. You know, we will just light some candles and we will go on the gong and you will kind of immediately go into this relaxed state. The Carita perfume had that kind of feel, and this one is heading in that direction. I really don't have a huge amount to tell you about it. I think the fact that there isn't a huge amount released in terms of the text shows that maybe they're just wanting the scent to speak for itself. So Glossier are expanding the Impressions of You fragrance line with Glossier You Fleur, an airy and luminous floral blend that captures the wonder of you and of course captures what you know and love about the original Glossier You. I mean, airy and luminous is a fair description. Like our other fragrances, Fleur is formulated to be, here we go, a personal skin scent enhancer with musky base notes that smell a little different on everyone. That's where I lose patience, as you know. Embodying the ethereal and alluring characteristics of a dewy spring garden, our new impression adds an airy and luminous scent to our fragrance lineup. And that's pretty much it. So personal skin scent enhancer or perfume enhancer, I think, yes, okay, let's move on, folks. Sarah says, used to wear Glossier You all the time, very inoffensive, smelt the new flankers in Space NK and thought Rêve, the slightly fruitier one, was nice. Doux is very soft and woody. Okay, thank you. Karen says, I knew of Glossier before getting into fragrances, and most of women's channels on the other side of YouTube have been talking about Glossier for years. What's the other side of YouTube? Should I be on this side? Do I need to know about this side? Is it like I'm the Darth Vader and they're all the Yodas? Or is it the other way? Please, I need to know now. What is the other side of YouTube? Are there only two sides? Are there perhaps several? Does Doctor Strange have to move you from one side of YouTube to another? Zakia says, for something along these lines, but much better in my opinion, Pierre Guillaume's Le Musc et la Peau, the dark. So what? The other side is the dark side. Now you're just confusing me. And I can please can I be C3PO, whichever side he's on. The superficial side, says Oriana. Okay, Darth Persolaise. It has been said before. Alcoholic Nan says, Diptyque's Fleur de Peau is like an elevated, stronger Glossier You for anyone who isn't familiar with the You line. Thank you, and I think we should do the pre-sprayed Glossier. Here we go. It's more than an offensive, actually. It's just a very, very clean, pleasant, musky, faintly floral scent, but it's also not particularly distinctive, and it's very, very forgettable. So let us move on. How about we now let's do the Celine, because the Celine I have smelt already, and it is interesting. Now the Celine, they still keep doing these, ridiculously sized bottles. I don't know. Is there seriously not a demand out there for them to do like a 30ml bottle or a 50ml bottle or something like that, even 100ml? So this is Un Ete Francais, so a French summer. We still don't know who the perfumers are, or I don't know who the perfumers are. There are some people out there who know who the perfumers are, presumably including the perfumer, although, sometimes it does happen that perfumers don't even know if their formulas have been used for a brand. There was something about this one on initial sniff that I found really, really intriguing, and it kind of contained a combo or an accord that I'm not sure I've smelt before, or if I have, then not for a very, very long time. Oh, Ressa says they have travel sizes. I did not know this. Thank you very much. So is their travel size like 150ml? Alex says, I must confess I never smelt anything interesting from this brand. They do have a few good... there are some people who absolutely adore night clubbing. That's the one. I'm quite fond of Reptile. They are interesting. They do have a particular kind of quite haute couture aesthetic, in that they don't push the distinctiveness too much. They kind of err on the side of being quite sophisticated and quite French anyway. There you go. Runny Eggio says, I quite like reptile and night climbing. But this one. Now, having cheated a little bit and found out the list of notes, because I was too intrigued not to, I wonder if the thing that I am picking up on, and that I picked up on a lot the first time I smelled this, it's a kind of effect that seems to keep coming and going. I don't quite get it as strongly every single time, but I wonder if the effect that I'm getting is what the list of notes refers to as gorse, as in the smell of gorse. But I'll tell you what I first thought when I was smelling it. I got a kind of citrusy feel that I suppose is meant to evoke summer. I got a herbal feel, but I also got something that made me think of mustard oil, and maybe just even mustard itself as a sauce, as a condiment. Now, if any of you have ever cooked with mustard oil, I know that it's used quite a lot in Bengali cooking and in cooking in Calcutta, but not exclusively there. I'm sure it's used in a lot of places. But if you ever smell mustard oil, mustard seed oil, it's got a really, really kind of distinctive, part metallic, quite acrid, quite sharp bite tang to it, and you need to use it carefully in cooking because it can overwhelm dishes. But if it is used carefully, then it adds a really, really unusual, distinctive flavor profile that I think that, it just like sets the cooking apart from anything else. And I love mustard seed oil, says E.B. And this is what I got, and this is what I'm still getting from this perfume, to the extent that I actually started thinking, oh, are we supposed to think of French summers, including Dijon mustard and people eating and eating al fresco. I think, having returned to it a few times, I can see that maybe what I'm reading as mustard seed oil is meant to be a kind of green, slightly pollen-like, slightly metallic evocation of a plant. But then, apparently, a gorse is meant to smell of coconut and vanilla. And I can't say I'm getting anything especially coconutty. Once I had that idea in my head, I kind of thought, oh, maybe I can see it. But I can't get past this really, really intriguing, strange, herbal, mustardy type feel, which is a difficult kind of smell to sell. But I would say, do check this out. I have a press release that I haven't read, so I would like to read it with you now, because I'm very, very intrigued to find out what they say about this scent. What are you folks saying? I love the scent of roasted mustard seeds, says Runny Egg Yolk. I always add them to my curries. Now, that's a different kind of smell, though. The seeds have got a kind of nuttier feel to them. The oil is actually quite a strange scent if you haven't smelt it before. Very, very, very difficult to describe. Do you think there's a little bit of Immortelle in there? Is that it, says Gavin? Maybe, but Immortelle for me starts heading in the direction of licorice. So I don't know. Anyway, let's read the press release. Celine introduces Un Ete Francais, the new opus in the Haute Parfumerie collection. Remaining faithful to the couturier perfumer tradition, this new perfume's narrative and compositions embody a French spirit through its muses, codes, and favourite haunts. It pursues the central theme of the powdery trail, which signs the whole Celine collection, a new creation inspired by the recollection of the new wave generation, one that expressed freedom and the lightness of being, a theme so dear to the house. Memories of light-hearted holidays in the south of France, lulled by the waves and summer heat, a silky soft and addictive fragrance like a veil of ambered cream on golden skin. The collection is comprised of 12 creations to date, with Un Ete Francais finding its space as the 13th in the Day collection. And then they basically go on to say that it's meant to be Saint-Tropez in the late afternoon, back from the beach and getting ready for the evening, that comforting smell of after-sun lotion settling as a veil of cotton on salty skin, bursts of laughter, eye contact, the rounded curve of a shoulder captures the last rays of sunshine while waiting for friends, outside in the sweet air, strumming guitars promise an evening stretching far into the night, the fragile grace of an adolescence spent under the sun in the Côte d'Azur, that first love, the reminiscence of precious moments kept to yourself. I can kind of go along with that, except for me it's not very south of France. It would be more like what's the famous beach in Mumbai? Is it called Chowpatty Beach? I can't remember now. Somebody will let me know. Regressive, like a memory that stays engraved in your mind. Interesting. Un Ete Francais resonates with the fragrance of holidays. There is a breath of sea air around the gorse's little golden flower, radiating the delicate scent of coconut, heightened by the sparkle of neroli and the bittersweetness of petitgrain. The freshness of waves that awakens golden skin, languishing into the sun under a pure blue sky, while powdered vanilla gently emerges to prolong in its trail the soft summery accord of gorse. So, gorse, 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 all the way. And then there's a little bit about the bottle, which I don't particularly need to read to you, and that's kind of it. Omar says 13 already in the line. Do they even sell well? I think they do. I think they're doing all right. They certainly have a very prominent position in Harrods, and they're quite well regarded. I think they've managed to get themselves a bit of a cult following. Ilias says, "Am I late? Hello." Well, you're never late, right? You're very, very welcome. Thanks for joining us. And the blurbs are getting progressively better, says Bozok. Yes, I know. I thought so too. I think we call that Scotch broom, says Karen. See, my knowledge of botany is pretty rubbish. Gorse is beautiful, says Mitrakai. How does it smell, though? Is it more like mustard gas, says Raniego. Sounds like a riot. I have no idea what mustard gas smells like. I may have read a few Wilfred Owen poems in my time, but I don't know what the gas smells like. Anyway, pre-sprayed Celine. Let's put the second one over here. Pre-sprayed Celine. Oh, Rachel says Lush has a gorse perfume called Furs. I think I remember that one. Anyway, right, so that weirdness has gone, and what remains is, it has to be said, a less interesting, less unusual, but very, very pleasant kind of vanillic skin scent with just a touch of green about it. Interesting to see how this would perform on skin, because or stay on skin, because you kind of get the feeling that it wouldn't stick around very long. But most of the Celine fragrances, I think most of, if not all of them, tend to play things rather subtle. Maybe they come in such massive bottles because maybe we were expected to respray, reapply several times a day. So pleasant, but maybe not particularly memorable. Okay, let's move on. Let's do the new one from Joseph Quartana. We like his work on this channel, don't we? Even though we may not love every single perfume, we like what he's about and we like how he operates. And this is new from him, and it's called, can you see that there? Oh look, you can see everything reflected. It's called Beaut'Air, so beautiful air, I suppose. From his re-releases, like from when he came back, well, literally came back from the dead. And if you want to know what I mean, try and find the interview that I did with him a couple of years ago. From his reissued perfumes, I think my favourite is still Hierophante. The one that he gave us last year was, I thought, it didn't do very much for me, but I've been wearing this one, and this is a very, very enjoyable one to wear, certainly. So this is Beaut'Air. We've got a press release from Quartana. What do you folks make of the Quartana brand, by the way? There's an état libre d'orange in the reflection, says Alex. Yes, you're right, because you can see all of that stuff reflected over there. Yeah, that's probably Afternoon Over Fawn that you saw reflected there. Right, okay. So, Quartana's Beaut'Air. Yeah, it's a pleasant, light, summery, citrusy, kind of heading in the region of a cologne-like scent. But what's interesting is that as you wear it, you realise that it isn't a mere cologne. It actually starts doing more work with florals. There were moments when it reminded me of the original J'adore, because it's got that very, very luminous floral quality to it. I mean, Beaut'Air, Beautiful Air, is a great name for it, because it does actually really feel like you're just surrounded by gorgeous air that is full of light and full of quite naturalistic sorts of smells. I haven't read the press release, but I shall be very interested to find out if it's got a kind of jasmine feel to it. Yeah, the more I think about it, the connection with original J'adore is quite strong. It's certainly one of the more accessible ones we've had from Quartana, but it's also got a touch of that oddness and a touch of that weirdness that stops you from being able to classify it very easily, or just, put it in a box and lock it up. And for something that has a fairly light scent profile, it lasts better than you might have expected. So let's take a look at the press release. Beaut'Air EDP released April 2025. 7 years in development, says Joseph. Oh, okay. Beaut'Air is the third release of Les Potions d'Enteleki, I never know how to say it, Enteleki, a collection of invigorating, daytime-friendly, unisex fragrances using the finest essential oils from LMR Naturals in Grasse. Quote from Joseph, who says, following Forest of the Golden Dream and Soleil Invisible, Beaut'Air is the third installment of Les Potions d'Enteleki, an all-new collection of fragrances to inspire healing and a sense of wellness. Beaut'Air, short for beautiful and air, renders the breath of life. It's a celebration of the joy of an entire day spent in bed. Okay, 10 a.m. morning sunshine, bright blue sky, fresh white sheets billowing in a rose-tinged breeze to ease one into blissful, dreamy retreat. I cannot even remember the last time I spent an entire day in bed, and that I wasn't ill. I mean, do people actually still do that? Does anybody actually do that? I don't know whether that sounds like a dream or a nightmare, but there we go. And the perfumer is Christina Christie, and we're told here that it's concentrated at 15% as an EDP, and apparently it contains grapefruit, lemon, Spanish thyme oil, and ethereal ozone. I'm guessing that's a synthetic. And then linden blossom, a fresh linen accord, Turkish rose absolute, Turkish rose oil, Sichuan pepper, orris root and clove. So no jasmine there yet, but definitely strong floral feel. And then in the root, according to what Joseph says, amber, a soil accord, Indonesian patchouli, cypriol, gaiac wood, sandalwood and saffron. And I don't think there is anything I particularly need to read from the second page. But I wonder why it took him so long to make it. 7 years in the making is quite something. Let's get the pre-sprayed blotter. Pre-sprayed Quartana. What are folks saying? Carl says, trying the new Acqua di Parma that you reviewed last time. More creamy than I thought it would be. It's good, but not as good as the price demands. Okay. If you want to know what Carl is talking about, you need to just go to the previous videos. Alex says, a day spent in bed. That's definitely a scent for me. A bed sore fragrance, says Karen. Yes. Gavin says, Onteleki is one of my favourite words. EB says, literally me in bed at 10:37 a.m. I get up soon as I have a final exam to study for. When's the exam? And good luck for it. Mitrakai says, sounds like a dream to me, a day spent in bed. But Ralph says, got a headache just thinking about laying in bed all day. What's Ilias saying? There was a time when scents like Fahrenheit took less than 7 years to conceptualize and develop. That's true. Anyway, hang on, what's this? Alex says, in Austria we say lying around like stinking ham. This does not smell anything like stinking ham. Okay, so pre-sprayed Quartana. Yeah, the same experience as I had when wearing it. That kind of citrusy feel goes away and it actually becomes more floral. I mean, I don't know about a soil accord and cypriol, and I must confess I'm a bit surprised to read that, because to me it actually stays quite light and airy and luminous, as its name suggests. But I suppose those elements must be in there propping up the other bits. That's the work that they're doing. But what's commendable is that even in the final stages of its dry down, this feels like it hasn't moved on from its heart. So technically that's quite interesting. It maintains the floral elements and those fresh lindeny type elements which you get. I also don't particularly get a sort of strong rose note, but this is what's interesting about Quartana's work, and we've talked about this on this channel quite a bit. His perfumes tend to be quite abstract, whereas a lot of releases that we have nowadays tend to be more figurative and more obviously and immediately legible. And of course it's abstract scents that are harder to describe. But to me, this feels like an atmosphere that is suffused with very, very small, gentle flower petals. It's a nice piece of work, and I would imagine it will do well over summer. Gavin's given us a quote from Ulysses. I thank you. I am not going to read it out. What else are folks saying? Okay, and I think we should do... Now, this is the one where I'm cheating a bit, because this is not necessarily new. And I'd like to share with you something from Indult. This is the Discovery set from Indult, a brand that I don't think I've ever mentioned here before, very, very unfairly. And I got this Discovery set when I went to the Excense exhibition in Milan in February. And I keep meaning to do one of my showcase videos on Indult, because their stuff is good, and a lot of, I know their stuff has a lot of fans, but just for today's video I thought I would do the latest one, which is kind of the latest one and kind of not the latest one, just so that we can get the Indult discussion going, and at least I can share this one with you. This came out last year, in a way. It's called Cuir 404, but it is the current version, the reworking of a scent that they released a few years ago called Rêve en Cuir. Now, I'm not completely au fait with the Indult story. Omar says, Janet is here. The stream starts now. Carry On Janet says, hello, Mr. P. Hello. Hello, Carry On Janet. You're very, very welcome. Why does the stream start? You're very well. So anyway, moving on. Apparently, Indult was a brand that was actually founded by Francis Kurkdjian, who's, of course, big superstar perfumer and currently in-house nose at Dior. Now, I hope that is correct, what I've just said, but please, please, please feel free to tell me I'm wrong if indeed I am wrong. He made all of their perfumes, but perhaps at some point he sold up the brand. I don't exactly know what happened, but the brand now has got owners who are most definitely not Francis Kurkdjian. I met the owner, a very, very charming, very, very supportive gentleman. I'd exchanged a few emails with him beforehand, I think, but I never actually met him until I met him in Milan. And he explained that Rêve en Cuir had to be reworked, and that it was indeed Francis Kurkdjian himself who reworked it into Cuir 404. We talked about what might happen moving forward with the fact that Kurkdjian is not going to be at liberty to create new compositions for them. So I think there are interesting things coming from the brand. And I like the story behind this, because apparently when Kurkdjian reworked Rêve en Cuir for them, they smelt it and they liked it, but they said to him, hang on, but it's meant to be a leather scent and we can't really smell the leather. What have you done with the leather? Has the leather gone? So that's why they're calling it Cuir 404, because 404 is, of course, what the error code that you get when you go to a website that cannot be found, a website that no longer exists. So that's their little joke on, is the leather actually still in here, or does the leather no longer exist? Has the leather gone? Now, I think the leather is in there, but I can kind of see what they're doing, or what they mean. I'm very, very, very taken with this one, and I'm almost using this review to give myself a bit of a kick up the proverbial, to talk about the other three on an upcoming video. I don't want to overuse it, because of course it's always the way when you really, really like a scent, you get 3 mils of it. So this is still credited to Francis Kurkdjian. See, I think what I like about it is that it feels like a kind of 80s masculine Guerlain, or some other masculines from the 80s, in the sense that it's quite big, it's it stays the right side of butch, but it's definitely got a bit of butch about it. It's definitely got a kind of, you know, gold medallion, bigger and thicker than this one. It's got that kind of hairy chested feel to it, but in a nice way. It's spicy. It's very, very, very smoothly leathery. It's very, very attractive. I don't remember the original Rêve en Cuir enough to compare, but it's a beautiful leather scent. And I think what I most like about it, and I guess this is what makes it modern and takes it beyond mere 1980s pastiche, is that it's got that translucent quality that a lot of modern scents have. So it's playing with heavy materials. It's got those heavy hitters in there, but it manages to give them a lot of lift and luminosity and brightness. And so the image of masculinity, not that it has to be just for men, right, but the image of masculinity that it portrays for me is of somebody who can, you know, play with 80s masculinity codes, but do so in hopefully an enlightened, dare I say it, woke 2025 type way. You know, I can take this kind of thing, whereas I can't easily take the aesthetic of a brand like Thomas de Monaco that I reviewed recently over on my Substack, which I find much more gruff and raw-edged and rough in an unpleasant kind of way. This sounds very interesting. Is it a fresh leather scent, says Ilias? I guess there is a freshness to it, but it's not overly bright. Is it like Derby or Heritage, says Alex? I'm definitely getting a bit of Heritage. I should try this, says Runny Egg Yolk. Yes, I think you all should. Let's see what the brand says about it. I've got a little bit of a blurb for you. So they say Cuir 404 is a reimagined version of the classic fragrance Rêve en Cuir, and I love the fact that they're very open about that. This scent offers a fresh, modern interpretation of leather, yes, with an airy lightness, yes, that sets it apart. It opens with lively citrusy notes, gradually revealing hints of leather, emerging within a subtle, spicy and woody cloud. As the fragrance evolves, it sparks curiosity, inviting contemplation on whether its leather will be revealed over time, hence 404. And the notes that they have listed are a citrus accord, clove, bergamot, cardamom, a leather accord, pink pepper, suede, cedar and vetiver. It's really, really nicely done leather. And I'm saying this not just as somebody for whom leather is an easy sell, but, you know, just genuinely. Pre-sprayed Cuir 404. Yeah, it's you get the kind of the warmth of the spices there in the background, but it's still very, very open, very light, and very definitely leathery. You know, if this were an Hermès, you would be thinking it's got shades of Bel Ami in there. Okay, if this were an Hermès, we would be praising the Hermès perfumer to high heavens, to, you know, for giving us this really, really suave, sophisticated, slightly retro inflected leather. Really, really nicely done. Yeah, if you can think of a sort of cross between Bel Ami from Hermès and Heritage from Guerlain, those sorts of things. That's how it's working. That's how it's operating. Okay, those are the 5 that I wanted to smell with you today, but I just wanted to give a quick shout out to, you know, we don't very often talk about things like presentation on this channel, but this I thought was quite cool. So you may recognize this as the packaging from Escentric Molecules. They have just started doing travel sprays that they're calling atomizers, appropriately enough, but I quite like the design of this one. I think they come in several colours. It's either 4 or 5 colours. So when you buy your atomizer set, you get, that's the actual atomizer with a cool mechanism, and you get 10 mils, I think, of your perfume in there, and then 2 additional refills, and then you can also just buy refills on their own. I think they have done this for all of their perfumes. This is the Moleculo 1 Plus Black Tea. If you remember, Geyser Schön has done several flankers of Moleculo 1, but this kind of this tickled my Lego loving button, because I quite like the look of it as it is. But then you go, can you see this? Hang on, where's a good place to hold it? You go twist, and the atomizer bit comes out, and you go spray, and it's nicely done. And I think when you want to refill it, please don't let this break. When you want to refill it, you just pull this bit up, there you go, and there's the actual bottle in there. So you can pop that back in there neatly. Oh, do an additional spray and hide it away. I think that's pretty smart. I think that's cool. And Molecular 1 Plus Black Tea is also a leatherier than expected scent. I'm pretty sure I reviewed it when it first came out. I quite like a lot of those Molecular 1 flankers. Alex says, like the Chanel pocket atomizers. Yes, yeah, thank you. Very much like those. They're very neat as well. Aqua di Parma did some nice travel atomizers, which had a kind of like flick up and down mechanism. I don't know if they still exist. Nia says, Mr. P, any reason you havenent reviewed Ormond Jane extensively? You rate Schön as a perfumer. No particular reason, except that I just haven't managed to get samples of them. That's a boy bottle, says Gavin. I know it is a boy bottle, but I think it is a boy bottle, I suppose. It could be a Lego brick, couldn't it? But I think in the other colours it looks a bit less. Anyway, what's wrong with boy bottles? Boys are allowed to have some bottles as well. I'm very nerdy about these kinds of toys, says Alex. Yes, I know. That looks like the TARS robot from Interstellar, says Omar. Yeah, it does actually. You're completely right. You're completely right. Maybe that's why I like it. Christopher Nolan, for your next film. No, actually that wouldn't work because his next film is going to be The Odyssey, isn't it? Well, maybe you could squeeze those in somewhere, or maybe we get a sequel to Interstellar. But on a more serious note, having just come back from some travels, travel sets like this, travel atomizers, are very, very welcome, particularly good quality ones like this. I'm not overly convinced by Travelos, the ones that you buy that are empty and you can sort of stick them on the spray mechanism and pump the perfume into them. Too many of them for me have leaked. Some of the more expensive ones are better, but yeah, a lot of them aren't that great. The Amouage travel atomizers are very, very elegant. A lot of brands do them well. The Frederic Malle ones, I haven't seen what they look like at the moment, but they certainly used to be very nice. So we need more of this kind of thing. And if it comes in cool Lego type construction, so much the better. Right, what are the final comments from people? Paolo says, Mr. P, that footballer haircut does not suit you, unfortunately. Thank you very much for being so frank. FRD says, the Cartier pocket atomizers are the best. I don't know those. I need to check it out. Ronnie Egg Yolk, looks nice. I have a few refillable atomizers that work this way, but mine are round. And Musk in Heaven says, that reminds me, did you manage to try the Tower Hero? No, I haven't. Carry On Janet says, yeah, okay, so the comments coming about the hairstyle, it's okay, folks. I don't need the validation. I find it quite interesting, though, when people make personal comments like that. Ilias says, thank you, Mr. P. Omar says, travelled with a Divine Vanille atomizer recently. Lovely scent. Killian has a gorgeous travel atomizer, but they're wild. Yes, I remember gifting one of those to somebody once. That was a very, very beautiful one, a very substantial one. Okay, thanks very much for watching, folks. Stay tuned to social media, as always, for info about new videos coming your way. I can tell you now, just in case you're wondering, I can tell you now there won't be any videos on Saturday or Sunday. Maybe on Monday, which is a bank holiday here in the UK, but not likely. As soon as I know when the next videos are going to be up, I will share that information with you. Until then, thanks very much for watching. Be good. And if you've enjoyed the video, please give it a like. See you soon. Bye now.